thing is the relationship between the midwife and the woman. It's a nurturing relationship to support the woman, and that in turn helps the woman to nurture her unborn baby. It becomes a reality, particularly at the booking appointment, when the midwife welcomes her and starts to talk about the baby, starts to ask mum how she's feeling, and starts to go through what's going to be happening, what the maternity pathway is about.
Actually, the brain is an organ that actually develops and gets sustenance from that engagement with adults, with community, and actually becoming a social baby, as the phrase goes. And I think that too many people, even now, 15 years on, don't actually realise that what they are doing is they're not just developing their child's personality, they're actually physically growing their child's brain. And I think there's a wonderful quote that one of our services use, and they say it's neuroscience, it's not rocket science. And actually all parents can understand this, and we need to put those messages forward. So that
it's important for everybody. It's not just about families, but families are the foundation of society, so it's for future generations. If we get it right now, we can get it right for the future.
Well, it's often a massive change to people's lives when a new baby arrives, and it can affect couples' relationships. There can be issues around mental health, but sort of environmental factors like housing and financial problems all have an impact on how you relate and how you manage with a new baby. And health visitors are able to point people in the right direction to address some of those issues, but also to work with the family to look at actually helping people to develop that relationship with a new baby in a family.
Infant mental health, it's a funny phrase because of course it could be good or it could be bad. I think the phrase calls attention to the fact that even the youngest infants do have mental health, good or bad, which often people don't realise. After all, a baby is a baby is a baby. And if we could get away from that, a baby isn't a baby isn't a baby. A baby is a relationship, a set of relationships. A baby is what happens to a baby. A baby is how a baby feels.
Police officers are good at telling stories, so I'll tell you a story. About 5 years ago, I went to a house whereby a guy had been arrested for robbery, and we turned up to do a search of his house. And in the house, in his bedroom, was a mattress in an empty bedroom. So he was about 14, this bloke. And his mum quite clearly had no empathy for what his predicament was. And a year later he killed someone. And I'm not necessarily condoning what he's done, but what I'm saying is I can understand that if from age 0 he has been ignored, from age 0 he hasn't been picked up, he hasn't been loved, he hasn't been kissed, his brain has not developed to the point where he thinks this is how I get on in life. He has just been confined into this foundation of not needing to care about anyone else because no one has taught him to care himself. And it is as simple as that. There is nothing more to say than if a strategy is put in place at day dot before he is even born, you go a long way to preventing that from happening. And that is why when I talk about it within the police, they're the similarities I draw from it, because it takes a bold person to know that whatever they put in place now, they might not see it again until a generation's time. But that's what we need to think about. That's how we need to think, because we'll just keep putting a plaster on, and we will not address the future problems that can present themselves from poor attachment.
Well, I would first of all say that the problem is not going to get any smaller.
Yes.
and that it serves all of us, and mostly the children, to be addressing this as early as possible. And the problem gets more and more and more expensive as it gets bigger, unfortunately. So those looking at speech delays in 2 and 5-year-olds started, at birth. That lack of communication between mother and child started at birth. And the investment required to right the problem is smallest the earlier we intervene. And so I think, as much as I know we're all passionate about doing the right thing and that we care about children, if you even take all of that and put it completely aside, and you take all the morality out of it, if we simply look at this as a really basic financial equation, we really need to start looking at investing as early as possible. And I don't know, I've used the example that if a report comes out that tells us that there's a bridge that's in need of repair and that it's going to cost £10,000 to fix now, or it's going to cost $2 million in 10 years, then we would of course spend the £10,000 now. And I think that we really need to start taking the same approach to our children, because it's really that simple. It's really as black and white as that.
Infant mental health to me means making sure that all babies who are born in the UK are given the best start in life, and so we put in intervention preventatively rather than later on. So infant mental health is making sure that all those babies and all those parents who really need support and care are given exactly what they need to make sure the parents